How's it going, everybody? My name is Warner Fields with Fields of Profit. I'm here today with my friend and student, Jordan. We actually talked about a year ago now. He was doing $40,000 a month. So I'm really excited to kind of have that updated conversation. If you just want to kind of briefly introduce yourself in case this is the first time they've seen you, maybe let them know a little bit about your Amazon business, where you're at. We can just kind of roll from there.
Yeah, cool. My name is Jordan. I started Amazon from a YouTube video that I randomly saw a couple of years ago. I basically got my first sale in January of 2022 after signing up that Christmas prior. Just went through the roadmap course. I was working a full-time job at the time, started stacking up the wins. My months, increased and doubled each time. It was about 4 or 5 months in, I realized the potential that this sort of, job could hold and kind of free me from a regular 9 to 5, be my own boss, make decisions, things like that. So I went full-time around late April, I believe, of 2022. Kept going through. Q4 was big that year. I think I ended up doing like 140K in revenue, probably like about 25,000 or so net profit. It was really good. And from there, I had sort of dipped my toes into wholesale, tried to open accounts, make connections, things like that, learn from other wholesalers like online. And that's pretty much what I do full time now, doing, I'd say like 90% wholesale. I still do some OA because some of it's just too good to give up, especially when Q4 rolls around. I'll still plug some OA.
For sure, yeah. And just for the uninitiated, kind of what he's talking about there, OA, getting started out, he's doing arbitrage. A lot easier than picking up the phone, doing those wholesale calls, just buying stuff from Walmart, other websites like that. It's a pretty good way to start. Would you still start with arbitrage over wholesale if you did it again?
Yeah, definitely. Wholesale, you're not going to have great margins. They're still good, but they're not going to be as good as buying something on like a 30% off or something like that. You're going to have higher margins in OA, but it's nice because you can also do lower quantity counts with OA. You can test things a little bit easier. What's nice too is like as soon as something comes to your house, you can list it. Whereas with a wholesale, you may have to prep it up, take it out of a case, label each item, repack it back up, send it off to Amazon. With OA, as soon as something comes to your house, you could list it as FBM, sell it right then, just to get the proof of concept. And also any mistakes that come up along the way, in your first 6 months, year or so of doing OA, you kind of learn on a smaller scale with less money.
Yeah, awesome. I totally agree. Like both great business models, but you're probably gonna make way more expensive mistakes if you're going straight to the phone and say, hey, give me $5,000 of this. You don't know what you're looking for. Like you probably have some headaches from that.
I've definitely made some mistakes. I've had, I bought pallets of inventory that were already tanking before they ever even reached FBA. Yeah, I've made those mistakes. You still make those mistakes, but
sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's all like, average it all out. You're still making pretty good money, right? And I like how you said you started, I guess, less than 2 years ago, which I didn't even realize. That's awesome. The kind of growth you've had pretty casually going, I started and then I made 25 grand in profit, right? So where in that kind of initial first year did things start clicking, maybe timeline, like how long are they going to bang their head against the wall till it makes sense, basically?
You constantly bang your head on the wall. There's always something from, order cancels to seller support. It doesn't matter. You're still gonna have headaches. But yeah, like it's hard to really quantify when like you get it because you're gonna be uncomfortable. If you start off at ordering 1 item or 5 items, like now you order 20, like that's pretty uncomfortable from where you were. So it's just, I guess you're just constantly in a state of uncomfort. And, once you look at Keepa, you can never always be sure of when something is going to do well or, when maybe you buy it and then the next day, 20 other people bought it. And you're making educated guesses, kind of get more confident in those guesses. You get more confident in spending more, buying more. So it's really hard to quantify when you can make that jump, but you really have to fill it out. But understand that every time that you've grown a little bit, you can recognize an opportunity when it comes or when it presents itself. So whenever, like I say, I made 25 grand in December, that was because that full year of stacking up little wins, growing confidence. And then whenever I would see a product, maybe it was on sale or something, I would read the data to find out if this would be a good buy. I would just run it up and maybe either buy out all of the stock or, just take a bigger gamble because of my confidence that I built over the year leading up to that.
For sure, right? Like a lot of people, like if you're going back to like traditional education world, like you're going to pay 50 grand for a college degree, right? So jump into Amazon, you'll pay $2,000, $3,000 in mistakes. And by the end of the year, you can make pretty good money, right? And I think I was going back, I was watching our last video. I think by like month 4, month 5 of your journey, you're already doing like 20 or 30K. So clearly, like if you really put in the hustle, put in the work, like you can start to get things clicking. And then by the end of the year, you're making pretty good money. So in that process, was there like a first like big product that you hit on? Like, was there a light bulb moment? You can share the product or not, just kind of talk, a little bit about that.
No, I mean, there were products like over the time. The only one that really comes to mind was, and I think I mentioned it last time. Yeah, I still talk about it to this day, but it was like this muffin tin for like shot glasses, something like that, like a cookie mold, something like that. And that one, it was when I was very early in my stages. I was doing OA, but I would also do a little RA or at least like curbside pickups. And I remember you could buy them at Michael's for like a couple bucks. I think they sold for like double or almost triple. So I learned like a few lessons on that. I learned, about buying confident to buy large amounts. I also learned about buy box rotations, and that will favor people that have more stock. I think a lot of people don't factor in that there's kind of like a regional buy box. The person in New York isn't seeing the same buy box that someone in Los Angeles is seeing. I mean, because there's fulfillment centers everywhere. So it's gonna be based on delivery time or quantities that are available. And so if all of your like cookie molds, or if you bought 10 of them and they're all sitting in Los Angeles fulfillment center, that person in New York or Boston or Maine or something, they're not going to see that. It's going to be someone who's regional, someone who has stock in their region. So I learned a lot about quantities, and I would get a lot of sales. I had a lot of buy box share, but I also learned that you can also go too deep and other people can find it. And, the price eventually tanked. I mean, there's a lot of lessons there. I would say that was definitely a pivotal moment, and it happened pretty early. And I was able to identify certain things about how to correct that for the next buy.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's always like that one particular product that sticks out. It's always cool to hear what that kind of light bulb moment was. When you're talking about, buying into products and the prices dropping after the fact, like, is there any like, a tip or two you can give for like the beginners to be on the lookout for products that might be on the decline?
Yeah, well, I mean, the most obvious would be, looking at the number of sellers that is trending on a Keepa. If it's trending up, it looks like a mountainside or something that's going up, or even like a sharp climb. That's definitely going to be a red flag. Other things would be like things that just aren't hard to find. I'm sure there's a few sellers that they're all based on Walmart, and Walmart is going to have super low prices and they're going to have good stuff, but a lot of people are going to find that. And so even though a Keepa may not look like it when you first look at it, things can change. So with that being said, I would say make it harder to find, like, shop at like a boutique store. Like something I would give out would be like Bloomingdale's. Like last year, I remember I bought a ton from Bloomingdale's, and not many people are thinking that. They're thinking, Dick's, or they're thinking Nike, or, whatever. But like there's tons of places to buy from. Like find places that other people aren't going to think of. And on that, I believe Bloomingdale, you can stack coupons. So that place is probably burned now. But but anyways, like, you got to find stuff like that. Another thing that I would look at too, like to avoid price tanking, is look at a previous 90-day average of how many sellers are on there. So if a previous 90-day average has something with 10 sellers on it, and now all of a sudden there's 25, like that just went up 2.5 times. Like I'm staying away from that, because the listing isn't going to be able to sustain that many sellers at its current price. People inevitably aren't going to be able to sell their product. They're going to lower it, or it could be that you have new sellers that just don't know about fulfillment center check-in times, things like that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The top ones are just looking at number of sellers and sourcing somewhere else that people aren't.
For sure. Yeah. Those are some major gems. Yeah. Dropping even like specific sources and stuff too. Yeah. So kind of looking back at the Amazon journey, right? You went from 0 to 40K last time we talked. Now you're over $100,000 a month. Was there anything kind of, retrospectively would you change about your Amazon journey?
There's not a lot I would change. I did get lucky over the course of the time. But one thing I would definitely do more of is invest in education, in conferences or places where you're going to learn. There's some that I've missed and there's some that I've paid for, like within the last, 3 to 6 months or so. Obviously, your course, I went ahead and did that a year ago, and that was great. And if I wouldn't have done that, I would have still been lost. But you can speed up so much time over learning from someone who's already been there. And, whenever you get in those kinds of courses, there's other people there. You can network, you can grow together, you share sources, things like that. So I would say the main thing would just be, I would change my outlook on paying for education. I would wholeheartedly do it.
Yeah, I appreciate the vouch there. That's something I've also realized. Like every time I'm trying to learn new skills and stuff, I'm immediately investing in people in education. Like it just makes sense, especially if you've got capital, right? And I like what you're talking about, kind of getting lucky a little bit, right? Like we all say that. Like I definitely have gotten lucky in my career as well. But some of the things we talk about, kind of off camera a little bit, like some of the opportunities that you've had are because you put yourself out there. You jumped on the calls a lot, so I knew your face, and you turned on the camera, right? Like you made your luck. Like that's a common theme that I see with a lot of people I talk to is, oh, I got lucky, when really it's taking step after step and putting yourself in positions to have that luck come to you. So you learn from Jordan's example, put yourself out there, go jump in communities, even if they're free, go put yourself out there and try to make as many friends as possible, and it comes back to you.
Yeah, there's a quote out there, I believe, it's like, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I think I think that sounds about spot on.
Right. It's cliche, but it's so true. Like, go make your luck. Like, and the more at bats you get, the more likely you are to hit a random grand slam, right? Like, there's so
Yeah,
much.
I remember there was like a video that Romer put out a while back about different kinds of luck. There's like hustle luck and, luck that finds you and things like that. And I think about that a lot, is like that specific little talk was try to be present and, find those things. And if you're there, they'll find you too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So kind of looking at the Amazon business growth, right? So last time we were talking, you're at 40K, which is awesome. Like most people watching this video probably would love to be at 40K. What was some of the biggest catalysts for you to go from 40K to 100K plus?
I would say while I was still doing OA, it was about figuring out exactly which stores are going to allow me to purchase quantities that I want. I would say the number one complaint, at least for me, whenever I was getting going, it wasn't necessarily capital, because I had worked a 9 to 5 and I'm a little bit older. So like I have money saved to work on it, but it was getting around cancels. Like it was new to me, as a consumer, you don't think about that stuff. You buy something, it comes, no matter what, you're ordering like 2 or 3 or whatever. But when you start ordering 20 to 50 or something, some stores don't like that. Some stores are cool with it. Some stores make it easy to get around, with maybe a simple email change or a name change or something like that. So it was identifying what was going to shorten the time for me to get the inventory that I needed so that I could grow it. Because if I'm constantly having to deal with order cancels or keep up with it in a spreadsheet, it just becomes more difficult. It's more taxing of your time. It will frustrate you more. So that was kind of it. It was doing that and then, ultimately outsourcing.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. So we can get into outsourcing as well, but I like to ask the flip side of that as well. What was something you had to stop doing in order to scale from 40 to 100K? Was something holding you back?
Yeah, well, I mean, prep. Definitely, I would say that was the first one. And actually, now that I think about it, from our first call, I don't think that I had outsourced the prep yet at that time.
I don't think so. Yeah.
And you had recommended to me that I should outsource the prep. And I was like, I don't know. I think I want a VA. And I was wrong and you were right. I did get a VA. I ended up firing them after like a month or so. It just didn't work out. The prep was what I should have done, because I was spending all that time doing the prep. And then I would try to review their leads. The leads weren't any good. I'd have to go try to find my own. And it was just like a vicious cycle. I would 100% say that you should outsource the prep first. I was just a mistake that I made. I should have taken the expert advice. I didn't. And now I'm sorry. But yeah, it was outsourcing prep, and that's a whole other conversation
Awesome.
about finding good ones.
Yeah, yeah. So, we don't have to get into a whole spiel about that, but did it take you a few times to find that first prep center? Were you just digging through Google? Like, how'd you find them?
So yeah, I was digging through Google. There's also lists out there of prep centers. I went through a few of them. Of course, I was only trying. I live in Florida, in Tampa, so there's total tax I pay is 7.5% with the county and the state, and that was it cuts into your margins. So I was looking specifically in like Oregon, Delaware, New Hampshire, I think it was Montana maybe, and it had to be a tax-free state. There was plenty of them I would call, email, like do the little message, on their website, and I just didn't get a response. So the first one that I got, there was a response, or the first one that did respond to me, I did an account with them. It ended up not working out. They're just bad communication. To condense this, what I would say is you need to test a few things. Their communication is big. Hopefully they will send you a photo of what their warehouse looks like, so that way you can verify it's not like necessarily somebody's garage. Not like that's a bad thing, but I mean, you want to see something to see like maybe they're organized, or there's just that something exists. And then also, don't send them all of your inventory at one time. Like I was still prepping products, or excuse me, after the first one, I was still prepping products. When I moved on to the second one, I would send them probably about 100 or 200 units, in a week or so. I wanted to see that they were going to actually send it out within a few days, and they did. And I would say that's how you should check on it: is try to see a picture of their location, look it up on Google. Do they have good communication? I would worry about price last, honestly. I know it may sound strange, but I feel like those intangibles are kind of the ones that they need to have a grip on first. Shipping on time, being professional, that kind of stuff. And then after that, you can negotiate price. If you're sending units there, let's say it's $1 and you want to pay 90 cents or, whatever it is, it's just an arbitrary number. But you have to vet them just like you're hiring an employee. I mean, they are basically an employee.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I like what you're talking about. Like, I'd much rather pay an extra 20 cents a unit if I can know that it's going to be out in 48 hours or something like that, versus
And
can't
to
get
be
a
able
hold
to
of them
sleep.
and they're for shipping. And I'll pay extra for that all day. That's awesome. Yeah. So getting into the kind of the other side of outsourcing that you kind of mentioned as well. Do you have any, team members now? I know you mentioned you had one, didn't really love it. What's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, so I had the VA, I did fire them, and that was my fault that I hired them. I do have 2 VAs now. I think a lot of people probably say this, and this was just another thing I wasn't really listening to, is you need to be able to do the job yourself and then be able to train somebody else to do the job. And also I would say I wouldn't really hire VAs that have prior experience because they may be set in their own ways. I mean, I know myself, like I was a salesperson in my 9 to 5 back when I worked in that life. And I may have been set in my own ways too, how to do certain processes and things like that. So yeah, VA hires have been good, but you should know exactly how to do your job and how to teach someone else how to do your job. As far as a sourcing VA goes, I don't have any admin VAs, but I do have 2 sourcers. They're great. They're both out of the Philippines. And yeah, they're good.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Like I see it all the time. Like, oh, I've sold $2,000. Time to get a virtual assistant. Time to outsource my business, right? Like you got to put in the sweat equity there. And kind of, I'll put the same challenge on you we did a year ago. It's probably time to get an admin VA. You'll probably be glad you did. Like putting POs together for you, answering, buyer messages, doing IP complaints, all that kind of stuff. It takes you a lot more time than you think. It was a big change for me.
Yeah, so I will say that I don't have my as far as sourcing and all that with the VAs, that's totally handled. As far as like my other processes and systems for, requesting POs and getting deliveries out and things like that, I don't have that dialed in yet. So that's definitely a challenge on me. It's something that I have been thinking about more now that sales have slowed down a bit just for the summer outside of Prime Day. But yeah, that's definitely, it's on the radar to definitely get squared away before Q4.
For sure, yeah. You're talking a little about like increased sales seasons. Are you going to be doing anything for back to school? Is there anything people should be prepping for in your opinion?
I personally won't do a lot of back to school unless just something happens to come up on my radar. It's not really where my focus is. For OA people, I would definitely gear up for that. I mean, a lot of people do backpacks, but like I was saying with the Bloomingdale's thing, like think outside the box. Think of other stuff that kids need or just people need. I mean, college kids or whoever, they need shoes, clothes, going to need crayons, art projects. I remember like my kid right now is about to go to kindergarten and we have to buy 18 glue sticks for him. I have no idea. I don't even think I used one glue stick whenever I was in kindergarten, but like just things like that. Like somebody like me, I'm going to buy 18 glue sticks at a time. And for some people that are just starting out, on OA, like 18 may be their whole order that they make from Target or whatever. So like the volume will be there. You just need to go back on what you've learned the previous, however long you've been doing this. Maybe stuff that did well last year, like look and keep histories, things like that. Just try to think outside the box. People are going to be slamming backpacks are going to be good, no doubt. Yeah. But some people are going to be late to the party and then they're going to be left holding the backpack.
Yeah, the school supplies idea is like, if you're a real hustler, then like go to the local Walmart, grab all the school supply lists and like figure out where.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Start seeing like which, what's going to be hot this school year. Like I'm sure there'd be some money to be made there. That's awesome. Yeah. So another thing that, we're talking about as well is like networking, putting yourself out there. What benefits have you seen from, making videos in the past, making an Instagram page, all that kind of stuff? Should sellers do that as well?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely should. I enjoy being able to connect with people. I'm not like really a content poster. If something like I get an idea of something that I think would be valuable, then I'll post it. But even just like posting stuff like in your stories or whatever, really, it just puts you out there and lets people know that you're serious or you're at least working on it. I mean, if I was to post something and there was an error on something that I did, like other people would comment and say, hey, you should do it this way, or hey, make sure your expiration date is this far out or something like that. But yeah, you should definitely just be out there because otherwise you're not going to connect with people. I will say some of my best connections have come from social media. Like as far as sourcing, being able to bounce account health ideas, things like that, they have come from social media 100%. Can't refute it.
Yeah. It's so much harder to not put yourself out there. Like be uncomfortable for a little bit, make a few people to make connections with and life will be so much more fun. Like
it is uncomfortable. Yeah. It's hella uncomfortable.
Right.
But there's going to be embarrassing moments, but there will also be really good moments.
For sure. Yeah. So kind of looking into the future a little bit, what's your vision for your Amazon business in a year? What's your sales goals? What kind of business models do you think you're going to be doing?
So for this year, my goal was to just at least crack $1 million in revenue. As of right now, that's still on pace to do that. I think I'm on pace for like maybe 1.4 in revenue. So right now, after I pay myself, my net profit for the business is like right at 12%, maybe 11. And so I'd like to grow that. Maybe not necessarily a revenue goal, but I'd like to maybe be at 14%, net profit. But I'd say just as like a high level goal, I'd like to be at maybe 1.8 to 2 next year. I mean, I know I may do 1.4 this year, but to be conservative and just be sure to hit a goal, I mean, it'd be nice to check that off too.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is holding you back from those bigger numbers right now?
I think it's not having systems in place. There is some wasted time. And also like not that I wouldn't hit that, but it would be me that would be holding me back. It would be me not setting the right processes. I live a pretty relaxed life now. I don't have some boss, breathing down my neck, besides my wife but I know how to push those buttons. So, like I enjoy the time that I have. So if anything was going to hold me back from those goals, it would be me. But yeah, my next thing would probably be to do a warehouse.
Yeah.
Right now, I'd say like 90% of my products, the source that I buy them from will ship it to Amazon for me. Some of them I do get delivered to my house and then I do that. It's not much, but some. So maybe the next goal be to maybe have some kind of a warehouse setting with maybe an employer. So, but I'll just have to see how that goes.
Yeah, for sure. Those are some awesome goals there. What's keeping you going right now? What's your main motivator? Why do you want to hit those goals? Like, personal, like not even business goals. Like, what's your drive?
I mean, it's fun to grow something on your own. It's fun to have like that sense of ownership, at least to me, and also be able to provide the income for yourself to be able to do, hobbies. And I like to golf. I usually get to go golfing, a couple times a month, go fishing, things like that. So having the freedom is nice. So I have that drive to keep it going, just to still have my own personal freedom. But yeah, just to see like your little baby that you started with in OA, RA, and you mold it and it gets a little bigger through Q4. And then, I moved on to wholesale. It's not that you can't still run it up with OA, as you're an assessment of that, Miles assessment of that, but it just wasn't the right thing for me. So yeah, I want to open up more accounts and grow the business. If it goes slow for me, I'm totally cool with that. I'm not caught up in having to compete with orange bars and things like that online. Although I do like seeing that. I like to see what other people are doing. I don't know if they'll see this video, but there's quite a few people that they'll post their bars and they're a little bit ahead of me, and that's kind of just like my carrot. I'm like, oh, I'm right there with this guy, or I'm right there with this girl, like, and I'll message them like, hey, I'm breathing down your neck too, like, I'll see you at the top kind of deal.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like what you're talking about. Like, Amazon's at your own pace. Like, if you want to go golf, like I've been picking up golf for a few months too. I'm hooked now. I'm sure you
only got a few more months left, and then you'll be buried under snow.
Right. Yeah, that's something I've been working on too. Is like, how about I don't work every hour? It's like, I can step back. I can do what I want. I can spend time with family, spend time with friends. Like that's what it's really all about. Yeah. So just to kind of wrap us up here, if you're that guy or girl, you've got $0 in sales, you've made a couple sales, what should they go do? What's kind of a couple quick action items that they should go take action on, kind of make progress towards that big business?
It's just keep doubling down on what you've learned. I would say that the biggest thing as a beginner is just not understanding where your time is well spent. And for me, that was prepping products or spending too much time on websites that didn't want me to buy from them, or, just put hard limits on stuff. So I would say is to really like look at that, like take a high level view. It's your business. Like nobody is going to come save you. Like you have to save you. Just like I said, like if I don't grow, it's going to be because of me. And I fully understand that. So I would say you need to take a hard look at yourself. Be sure you're tracking everything. A lot of people nowadays, I mean, it's kind of like the flavor of the month of some Instagram people that want to diss other people, but like it's a lot of people, no, you don't know your numbers. It's not that hard. Just keep track of everything. If you go buy tape at Walmart, like put it in your inventory lab account or put it on your spreadsheet. If you have to buy some boxes, write that down, record it somewhere, or, figure out certain things like how much you would pay to ship stuff. Like once you get an idea, add that into your item cost. If you usually send an item for 25 cents an item to Amazon or 50 cents an item, like calculate that in, like be smart about how you're adding things up and make sure you're making money. Like make sure those profit calculators show green.
Yep. I love it. Yeah. So if anybody watching this video wants to go reach out to you, maybe they're also doing good sales, you guys want to network a little bit, where can they go find you? So
I am on Instagram at arb_asins. I do have a Twitter too, just because that's what all the cool kids have too. I don't get on there as much. I kind of like Instagram more, but I'm warming up to Twitter. But yeah, if they want to find me there, I'm an open book. If you have a question, just ask. Like, don't ask me if you can ask a question. A lot of people seem to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just whatever, just ask. Reach out. Let me know if you have anything.
Awesome. Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time, Jordan. Always happy to have you in the community, hopping on calls with us, that kind of stuff. If you guys did get value out of today's video, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, kind of add a little bit of that value back to my business. Just let me know if you have any questions, comments as well. Drop those down below in the comment section. Super happy to answer those for you guys. But I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will see you next time.